Looks like we are live.
We're live. All right. Hi to everybody. This is Hulker X. And we got Palmer over here from Heresy Productions. And we're running around here like chickens with our heads cut off tonight.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, it's as they say, a massive cluster going on tonight. It's like I was just telling Palmer here is that my laptop that I was on just finished updating. It's like you might have seen a different view tonight.
Yeah.
But other than that, so how's things over there?
Good. Yeah, it's just been a crazy week. Let's see. No special occasions, but we're traveling at the end of this week again, so it feels like Easter again because I pretty much went up to family and up in Edmonton last week or 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was, and we're doing the same thing again for a family event, and so working and kicking out some videos and rushing out of town. Yeah. And so that's just kind of the way it is.
So where you're off to this time?
Same place, Edmonton. Yeah, going up to visit with family again. It's a big anniversary on my wife's side, 50th anniversary of family members, and so everybody's converging, and so that'll be nice. And I'm actually, as a side note, I found somebody that has some rare Mordheim miniatures in Edmonton, and I'm like actually swinging up there and going to somebody's house and getting some Mordheim miniatures while I'm up there.
Don't worry, honey. I'll be right back.
And as a matter of fact, to make it even more interesting, is he made a deal with somebody in Calgary, and it's like a big, it's like a 2 foot by 2 foot display board in an army. And he's like, well, how would you like to bring that up to me? So I'm driving that 3 hours up. So I have to find room with all the luggage for all those things.
Say 3 hours would be like going from where I'm at in Des Moines, going to eastern Iowa. So it's about the same distance. Yeah. It takes about 3 hours.
Yeah, and those are the two biggest cities in Alberta. I mean, there are other cities as well, but Edmonton, Calgary are the two main sort of larger populated cities.
Yeah, then a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah,
in between.
There are a couple of smaller cities, but yeah, those are the big ones. So, how about yourself? What have you been up to?
Oh, still trying to recover from that nasty cough I had.
That's right.
It's still hanging in there. Other than that, I've been just finished up an army this afternoon, probably about 5 o'clock, a couple hours ago.
Nice.
And I just got done. It was like, well, if I can't do anything with my laptop, so I broke out the camera and I did a video of it. Mm-hmm. And I was going to upload that probably tonight, so it's up tomorrow or something. Hopefully, cross fingers, see if it works.
That's right. Awesome.
That's always the biggest problem you always have, when you're making these videos. Is there's been times that I'll upload something and you're like, all right, let's check it. It's all messed up. All right. I have to reload. It's like, for me, if I have to upload something from my computer, a 10-minute video can take up to 5-6 hours.
Okay. So, that's a long time.
And where's my phone? Yeah, my phone, that same video, hour, maybe half an hour. Depends. I better silence this thing while I'm at it. We don't need somebody calling in the middle of our video.
So you had some stuff you were going to show today?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. It's been, you haven't seen this yet.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. So
hang on a second.
Let me guess. Is that the new Warlord game? That Warlord Games put out? Because there's a few games right now kicking around. Like there's the Wings of Glory stuff I know, and then there's a Warlord Games that's come out with a game. And so which one is that?
That's Zvezda.
Oh,
it's an IL-2 Russian ground attack craft. So,
but what set of rules do you use for it?
We're going to use either Battle Group or Flames of War.
Oh, so, and it's funny because when I just see the plane alone, I immediately just started thinking of plane rule sets. But true, yeah, these games, you can use aircraft in them. So, yeah, that's right. Okay.
And then you see this guy. You've seen him before in my videos.
Nice.
So and I kind of explained in my current video. Now you can see numbers on it and emblems and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through and put those together. So now as you can see these.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to put some graffiti on them too. It's like up Hitler or something. But
nice. Excellent.
I didn't get the official okay because these are my brothers.
Oh, okay. You're just painting them for him.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we got this another KV1.
Mm-hmm. Cool. You've been painting a crazy amount of tanks.
Yeah. And then I've been working on these little guys.
Oh.
Circle Orboros.
Oh, see, okay. See, I'm really, really naive when it comes to War Machine Hordes. I don't know the factions at all. So I didn't recognize it because I'm not familiar with them. Cool. So is that like
it's a war beast. This is like a heavy war beast. And that other one was a light war beast.
Okay.
And then I got these are light war beasts too.
Awesome.
So all I have to do now is just finish. You see the bright red there. I gotta finish the armor up. That's the armor plating on them. Yeah. And then I have this Warcaster too that I've got to work on.
Nice.
She's in a rough state right now. She just base coats of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying putting together the painting the beast. They look good.
Yeah, they do.
And then for you Brits out there, you should appreciate that one. It's like, that's the Churchill tanks. I did that. You seen the unboxing I did.
Yes.
And so that's one of them. I'm just started putting those guys together. And
you've been busy.
Yeah. Then it's back to the weekend where I don't get nothing done. And then this is, I'm going to put a toast out to the United States. Today, I figured it out 243 years ago today, the shot that was heard around the world.
Oh, okay.
And all caused by rum.
Yeah. Well, I'm not as fancy today as a Musty Wargamer. We have our first. Well, we've had a couple of nice days of weather, but we've been getting so much snow. Like we've had this year where, literally, like just when we thought it was gone, several times it just keeps coming back, and like I literally can't get rid of the snow off my front lawn. It's so high. It's literally like 4 feet high, and we've got some really nice weather, and it looks like this may be the beginning of the end of it. And so I'm having a Coors Light today because it just has this like summer feel outside, and so I just wanted something to quench my thirst tonight. So just an easy drink.
Say if I would, yesterday it was snowing here. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. We had snow yesterday. So the northern part of the state had like 8 inches of snow.
So I was going to show what I've got here.
What?
So I don't know how well you can see that, but
that's pretty good. Looks like a Greek god or something.
Yeah. This is a miniature that I'm working on for the Lucid Eye Publications Cosmic Vault. It's a game that's not yet released, but they've released this miniature, and they're going to be releasing miniatures for it. And so it's sort of a science fiction pulp style game. So it's meant to, you know, be kind of like, I hearken it back to Flash Gordon kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
okay.
so
Like kind of like the Flash Gordon movie that came out in the 80s.
In the 80s, yeah. So to me, like, it's not a Flash Gordon game, but it's just like those old pulp sci-fi comics from years gone by, like, you know, I don't know if you call them Golden Age comics, but just the ones from like the 30s, 40s, I guess. I don't know, up through the 50s perhaps, but those kind of science fiction. And so to me, that's what I get from it. Like, there's not a lot of information out on it, but that's kind of the way I look at it, at least, what I see in the original character and what could potentially be coming. It's not going to be a large scale game. Like, it's not even going to be I don't think, from what I've heard, it's going to be as large as Savage Core, unless they've changed that as far as the number of miniatures you'll use at a time. So it's going to be low miniature count. But I really love like that old science fiction, and so I'm really kind of excited about this. And so down the road, as more stuff's released for that, I'll definitely be likely picking up more miniatures for it. So that's kind of what I just started working on at the moment.
I was about ready to put in there is Flash Gordon approaching.
Yeah, that's right. Clyte, I'm bored.
Oh, products of our youth.
I love that movie, as corny as it is. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Go, so Flash, go. That's right. What are we talking about tonight?
Well, we have several topics. We have the paint schemes and how to plan for them. And then we have another topic, which is one that you were talking about doing.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I had a brain lock all of a sudden. I hate it when that happens. You know, going with your local friendly game store versus buying everything online.
That's right.
All right. First thing we want to talk about is I want to just rack your brain first tonight. You're it. Tag, you're it. And talk about, what do you do? How do you think about finding a paint scheme? What kind of research thoughts that you go through your head when you're doing it, and how hard of a effort you want to put into it to get the end result?
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's see. I think a lot of it will depend on whether I'm trying to emulate something or whether I'm trying to create something new. And so a lot of times with certain historical games, I'm actually looking at trying to emulate like a uniform or a look that actually was real, in which case that could be more, in some ways that could be more difficult. In some ways it can be easier. From a creative perspective, it's actually easier in the sense that you're just finding source materials, looking at it, and you're just trying to paint something most likely as realistic as you can, or in a way that you think really emulates the plates for uniforms. So I'm thinking of like French Indian War, kind of stuff. Or even for Dark Ages, you're wanting something that, like, because I'm doing the saga, something that seems right. Like if I've got Scots coming up, so I've started researching. I guess it's debatable with the kilts, just how much they were used back in the Dark Ages, but some people still paint them on, and I'm thinking about doing some. And so I'm thinking about, like, do I do like a real kilt from a family's, like, that were back then, like actual kilt styles that were done. And so I'm using source materials and I'm just trying to emulate it. Now, I would say overall, I enjoy the creative process of choosing a paint scheme. And so whether it's fantasy and I'm like trying to paint old Hammer kind of style, like miniatures, then I'm like going back and looking at materials from the 80s, and just looking at the paint schemes and just maybe trying to create some contrast and things looking a little bit different than maybe some of the more contemporary techniques. And so I could be going that route. But then recently with the Savage Corps, when I did those apes, I just wanted to do something different than what I was seeing, and I kind of had this idea to do like orangutan orange inspired apes. And so a lot of times what really excites me is to have a creative process that in my head I think about it, and then I just try to make that come to life and just do something very different. I think in some ways for me that's like the most exciting thing, is when I actually have a line of miniatures, and I'm just trying to think of other ones that would fit the bill like that. I think like the Malifaux ones I did when I was trying to do the non-metallic metal, and it was a bit of a challenge. Just trying to do something new, creative, and a challenge is the thing that kind of excites me a lot. It can kind of go either way. I mean, sometimes you can be a little disappointed if it's something that's new and it doesn't come out exactly the way you want. But I like that sort of out of the box kind of thinking. And even with that, you know, like with those orange simians, like I was thinking back. I didn't emulate them, but I was thinking back to Planet of the Apes and how like there were some of the apes that actually had like the yellow orange orangutan kind of fur, right? And so I get inspired by that. Like even in the sort of fantasy element, trying to draw inspiration from movies and comics and books and just anything. So yeah. So as far as preparing for it, I mean, there's like a creative preparation where I'm usually always looking at some kind of source materials, either pure historical kind of paintings and plates, or whether it's literally stuff, like I said, from movies and comics and things like that, if it's like on the fantasy side. And I think that's a big part of it. You can also look at other people's work, which I didn't mention, like for miniatures. And so in particular, when I was doing like Eldar in the beginning and getting back into painting, I mean, it was really helpful to look at other people's Eldar armies that were already there online. And if it's just, even though that's a fantasy sort of setting or science fiction, there's so much history of people in real life, like painting those armies over the years, that it almost is like historical in some ways, right? Because there are like templates, you know, for these fictional kind of
the different craft worlds.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know, does that sort of answer the question as far as like how I would prepare?
Yeah, they're pretty much kind of similar lines that I was going to talk about. It just depends on what area you're going into. It's like you said, if you're going into historicals, there's plenty of materials, everything, let's say Napoleonics or Civil War, or even it's World War II, Vietnam, or let's say the Crimean War, Revolutionary War. There's all kinds of stuff out there. It's well documented. You just, all right, I'm going to build. And some of it is if you're looking at, let's say, a specific campaign. And let's say I got some stuff here. Like these are some books I picked up years and years ago to get the glare off. And these are old library books that I found them at a like a half-price bookstore type thing.
Yep. Who's the author on that? I can't quite see it. Who's the author on the one with the blue?
It's John Mollo and Malcolm McGregor.
Oh, okay. That looks great. Von Kettering recently had showed on one of his videos, Fraser, some very similar books with similar covers. I almost think I thought it was maybe the same one.
Yeah, here's another one I found. Military uniforms, 1686 to 1918. So that one, you know, you have little pictures and stuff, and just kind of like snapshots of different stuff. This one here is like when I was doing American Civil War a lot, or American Revolution. I was going through that one and making specific units. Now, there's other ones. Like here, this was a good one. Now, if you want to learn a little bit of history, I got this one from Gaming with Sarge. Oh, okay. Eric sent me this one.
Yep.
United States Infantry. really good illustrations of all the uniforms throughout the years, how it's changed. And little side note, when I was reading this, I didn't realize how old the camera was. We're looking at pictures, I think it was from the 1830s.
That's really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, there's you're looking at military uniforms from 1830s, and you're looking at pictures. Yeah. And if you're into aircraft, they have a World War II one just like this over here. But if you want to list what throughout the whole campaign, if you were like Wings of Glory, they got their pre-painted stuff, but if there's other games out there that you can buy the kits and little 44th scale and put your stuff together out there. And then being a tanker, one man cannot go without one more book of tanks. And it's got little pictures and stuff of everything in there.
So what do you have for your orcs?
White Dwarf, internet. Yeah, back before there was an internet, all we had was White Dwarf.
That's right.
I remember it's when I first started painting my orcs, and you had to either look at the orc codex or buy a White Dwarf, and you're like, okay, flip. Oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. But here's one of my favorite books. This guy is like a rock star when it comes to military painting. I met this guy years ago, and this was one of the handy ones I ever used. And it's if you really want to get into historicals, make yourself a nice collection of books, and that's just a small collection,
right? For sure,
just historicals. And if you're getting into a specific war, like say you want to go into the Napoleonic Wars, there's even books for different units. You can go into massive detail. And you were saying it makes it easier but harder because you have to get a specific paint color to make that color. Unlike a lot of stuff, let's say if you're doing a basic science fiction like 40K, you can make your own paint scheme using whatever GW paints you feel like throwing on a table,
Yeah. The creative process, it's easier when you have information in front of you, but then it becomes harder depending on how exact you want to mimic it. That's the way I always looked at it, kind of, because in the fictional side, you can just basically chalk it always up to, I'm just going to do it that way. That's just the way I'm going to do it. You can even, of course, I've got no viruses found on this PC. I've got to click that off. So you can,
it's pop-up time for you tonight.
Right. That's right.
Last time it was me.
That's right. So you can always say, I'm just going to do it that way. You can make your Marines pink if you want, your Space Marines, and say, that's just my chapter. That's the way it is. But then if you're going to go the historical route where you're trying to emulate something real, then it's easier because you have a lot of resources that you could look at, but it's harder depending on how close you want to match it and just get it, how precise you want to get everything.
Yeah, it's the hard part is if historicals, you get the rivet counters. If you don't know what a rivet counter is those individuals, they didn't quite use that paint scheme or had that uniform in that exactly that way during those years. So that's not really a legal thing to put on the table, that type of thing. And
when the rules lawyers decide to paint, they become the rivet counters.
Yes.
and vice versa.
It goes, it's you're sucking the fun out of it.
Out of the air.
I don't feel like spending $10,000 just to have 30 different units so I can have them all different. I want to use this for this battle and this battle. They're going to have to be dual purpose. Sorry. And so that's some drawbacks. But if it's just a small group, it doesn't matter. Most people could, it's okay, that's what that unit is. All right. I just know I have to shoot it. That's all. And when it comes to building, let's say, this is a paint scheme. I'm painting this up for my friend, and he was mentioned in the last time we had trying to motivate people.
Okay.
And he motivated painting his miniatures by motivating me by paying me. That works too.
Cash under the table.
When you cannot motivate yourself, pay someone to motivate it.
Or a case of beer on your back doorstep.
Yeah,
that's something. But I think there's another way to kind of look at this too. So there's the idea of like what I'm going to choose for a paint scheme, but then there's like what is the style I'm going to paint this? And I'm not even going to go into the realism versus cartoony because we've kind of talked about that a lot, but you could certainly put that right into here. But as far as like your choice of paint scheme, because your choice of paint scheme isn't just, is it going to be like red for Blood Angels? Is it going to be, like a certain color for Historical Army? But it's also like, am I going to dip this army? Like some people dip, and use like quick shade and things like that. And if they're going to do that, or even use glazes that are like even the quick shade soft tone wash is like almost an in-between step in my experience between a dip and using like traditional washes. It's a bit more of like a glaze where you get kind of that dipping effect. If you're going to do that, that's going to change the way you might do your steps and your order for your paint scheme. In order to show highlights, because you might either highlight after the dip, you might do some highlights. I think it's intended like before the dip and just kind of make them a little extreme in some areas, and the dip will cover it and they'll soft them. Yeah. And so if you're going to dip this army, then that might change the way you're going to do it. Are you going to not use washes at all and go really old school and just start dark and work your way light, and create that sort of real high contrast effect? And so I think, that's exciting for me too. Like I find and we didn't even get into airbrushing, because like with airbrushing, there's lots of resources like we talked about, and you can do lots of stuff with airbrushing, in particular for vehicles, whether it be tanks or for like World War II or, like Warhammer 40K and things like Imperial Knights and like Wraith Knights and things. You can do the airbrushing. And so if you decide to airbrush, that's going to affect the way your choice and your colors and how you're going to do it. And so there's the whole technical aspect of how you're going to approach your painting your army, that may really affect how you're going to do your color scheme and how you're going to do your various stages.
Yeah. When you're looking at trying to figure out what you want to go, there's, some people might want to get the rope and torches and tar and stuff and feathers. But I look at 40K in some ways as an example, Marines. Sometimes Marines can be so bland and boring because there's really no details in them that, you like that War Machine figure, it's got muscle texture and everything. You can just go hog wild. And it's like that one, I painted in all the details I wanted. Then I put a wash over it, and I went back and brought it back out and put enough washes in. So you can go in and do a lot of detail work and make it just pop. But I look at a Space Marine, unless it's a character type like this guy right here. This is he's been in many videos. He's kind of like a prop. And there's a lot of detail in this guy, and you can make this guy look great. But I don't have a standard Marine sitting here. But it's like sometimes you're like, what am I going to do with this guy? It's he's just a rank and file. There's not much to put on him unless he's a sergeant and has laurels or something or some kind of crest.
Well, and in some ways, the Marines can either be really easy or really hard, because if you want to really go high end, I think on the Marines, you can be doing a lot of wet blending to create light and shadows on the curvatures that actually can look really nice, but it's kind of a lot of work to do, like you said, for rank and file, right? And so I actually initially always looked at Marines as really hard to paint, because to do them the way I kind of wanted to. I was looking at doing a lot of wet blending on the curves, and and that could be kind of difficult too. And so it's funny. It's kind of just depends on your approach, I suppose. A lot of times I know people that a lot of people don't like, as they get better and better and more comfortable in their painting, to use quick shade because it's meant to be sort of a quick way. I have not used it in a while, but I'll be honest, it actually can make some really beautiful miniatures at times. You can also mess up a miniature pretty easily too, like if you let that stuff pool. Yeah. But like some of those, the techniques of like, they're not enamels, but the sort of, I don't think they're, at least the sort of thicker glazed wash type products, which is what I see it as. It's something that's meant to go in the recesses, but because it's thicker, it always retains a certain amount on the surface as well and filters. So it's not just like a deep wash effect, but also provides that filter. It can actually, in certain cases, it has really good applications, I think. It can oftentimes can make, for very little work, a really nice looking miniature at times.
Yeah, it's like when you look at the quick shades, I find them handy is after I put the base coat down, then put into like a quick shade, and that will get into all the recesses, and then I can work my way from there. It just makes, and that's how I look at it, as a tool, not as a end result. It's just one more tool in the toolbox to be used. It's not the end be all type thing.
Right.
There's going to be more work. Now, if you're just starting off and you have an army and you want to get stuff into the recesses and call it good, I suppose you could do that. But the way I look at it is, if you're using a quick shade, you at least understand that you need to put something into the recesses to give yourself some contrast. Oh
yeah, yeah. And for its initial intent, like painting on your base colors, like your tabletop standard, and maybe even a little bit of dry brushing and highlighting a few spots, and then putting quick shade on. For a beginner painter that just wants to get their first army painted, and it actually can make a really nice product. I mean, I believe when you look at their pictures on the websites for Army Painter, they do a couple of examples where they'll show you, and it gives you what they show you. I mean, it is actually not bad, like for standard tabletop gaming. I mean, it's good. I do prefer their the tones, like these. Oh gosh, I'm thinking that I've got the other camera on here. I like the like strong tone, soft tone Army Painter. These ones, I find these actually, I kind of do what you're talking about too. Is at times I'll use these as a little bit of a glaze, but then I'll highlight over them.
Yeah,
they can soften various tones, particularly skin tones and things at times when you're doing various shades. It can soften it really nice. It's a good product, but it's not a wash. Like, it's not, they call it an ink on here, but to be honest, I don't even really look at this as an ink, because to me an ink is really, really thin and much more rich than a wash. Like if you look at the old Citadel inks, you can literally like color a model with them. You got to be careful because they're so potent. So to me, inks are thin and they go into the recesses. It's called an ink, but it really kind of leaves a layer on the surface like quick shade does, just a thinner. And I find they're good. Off topic, I'm sorry. I'm starting to go off topic.
Well, we can always go on a tangent, which I remember when I was painting my undead army for fantasy back in the day. It was probably 94. And Citadel come out with their brown inks, sepia wash type inks. And they said, all right, apply. It's like, I think they had a tutorial on in one of the White Dwarfs. And I was like, okay, that looks easy. So I went and did everything, put everything on, and I put that one. And then it took forever for it to dry. And then it's like, all right, that looks kind of too dark. So I put some paint over it, and it would seep back out. And it took forever. It's like, you just made my job harder.
Yeah, it's potent stuff for sure.
Yeah, it was. It's like what they have today is nothing compared to how strong it was. Actually like an ink that you could put into a calligraphy.
That's right, an inkwell. No, exactly. I completely agree. Like you could really mess up a model if you didn't know what you're doing with them.
Yeah, and I have one of these days I'll break it out. I have a big giant giant. It's a giant mummy. You know, he's holding a big giant, like a bird claw or something, and he's standing there and he's like, ah. It's from way back in the day, and that was one of the models I used it on. And about a month later, I finally finished the miniature. It was that bad.
Right. All right. Well, maybe we should get our other topic in, because we are enjoying this one. We're continuing and continuing.
Hell yeah, when we start talking about painting, we could talk, you know, because we both enjoy painting. That's right. Something, you know, just on a side note, real quick, is that when I'm painting, it's the world kind of disappears and I can spend hours painting. It's like that somebody on my video today, or not video, something I posted on Facebook in one of the groups for World War II. And it's like, well, you just went through these armies so quickly. And it's like, yeah, because I can sit down and lose 3 hours of my life, just sit down and start working, and it just disappears.
You have a good, I can see how you commission paint, because you can turn out stuff with quality and quantity. Quickly. So that's good. That's right. That's right. You want me to introduce the next one?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this one, I kind of thought, let's talk about this. This is a controversial topic, at least the way I'm going to present it, because in most cases, like, and I don't disagree with this, people will say, like, support your local store. I mean, your local store not only gives you access to all of this stuff, it's at times can be a very hard business, you know, for the folks that are doing it, and they're trying to support your hobby in your local area. But then they also more often than not give people a place to play. And some of us, myself, I'm a basement dweller. I definitely, like, my friends and I play at each other's houses and stuff like that. But I will also utilize my local store at times, and it can be good for lots of reasons: space, neutral location, lots of people. Just there's a lot of reasons why I like to use the local store, even to game at times. But however, there's this online thing, you know, buying online. Now, in some cases, probably less often, there are some places that you can only get online. And so you can't get it at the local store. Like, they only sell it direct from their website. And then there are, of course, the big online retailers, whether they're international retailers or whether they're just national-based retailers based on where you live. And so usually online is cheaper. More and more lately, I'm finding that the online stores have a brick and mortar store, but there was a time, and there still is, I think, cases where it's purely online, and so they don't have as much overhead. Front store needing to maintain high cost rental space, you know, and so they can compete at that level and decrease the price of their products. And that's, I guess, even years ago, like, you know, I would always hear, like, this whole idea of, like, don't buy online, buy at your local store. Now, in my experience, it seems like people are definitely buying online, and there are people that are definitely buying at their local store. There's definitely a mix. Online retailers are still successful. I would say, well, you know, I'm going to sort of leave it at that. I'm going to say my sort of take on it, what I personally do. But before I do that, I just introduced it. What do you think, Rusty?
Oh, yeah, there's definitely two different camps there, where if you're on an extreme budget, you know, it's like you look at, I can buy 2 of these things online, or I can buy 1.5 of something at my friendly local gaming shop. And it's kind of, do I want to put my money to where I have more bang for my buck, or do I want to help the guys down the street so I have a place to play? You know, if I'm an individual that doesn't have a basement, you know, it's like we're you know, family guys, we have family, we have a house and a large basement here, and it's half my basement, or 3/4 of my basement is dedicated to gaming. And because my kids are grown up in college and everything, so I have all the space I'd use. And is that something where if I don't have it, if I live in an apartment, I don't have space to go. It's like I'm definitely going to be back in the early years where there was no there was no online stuff at all because there was no internet.
Yeah.
So it was nothing but brick and mortar. So you had no choice to where you purchased your stuff. And if you couldn't get it at the store, that it was one, okay, we'll special order it for you.
Right.
And so you're looking at that where you want to go with that is, do I want to be I'll just bring up an interesting story. We're going to go back into the 90s where a certain individual that shall not be named, he, when the internet just came out and we had our first online gaming presence where you could go and purchase stuff online, the internet just basically was kicking off in that internet retail. And it was about 97, 98. That's when it really started going. And he went into our friendly local game shop and said, hey, I've been buying all this stuff. Why don't you match my price? I'm buying it for this. Why don't you sell it for that? And the owner was like, well, I got overhead. I have to, pay the bills. I got to pay the rent or, everything. And why aren't you coming here and buying your stuff here? Well, I can buy it cheaper. I'm not going to buy it from you when I can buy it cheaper. And he was like, he didn't see any problem with that. And he wanted to come.
Lack of what is the? Sorry to interrupt, but that's like that whole lack of self-awareness, right? It's like exactly. I'm just gonna the back of my brain. I'm just gonna say there's like no filter. Gosh. Well, at least there are some honest people out there, even if they shouldn't be, right?
Yeah. There's sometimes he's not the sharpest crayon in the box. Put it that way.
Okay. I hope he's not watching. I'm not insulting anyone here.
No, it's like, no, don't worry about this guy. If he is watching, I'd be surprised. So the owner is like, you want to play, because we had a 40K night and a league and all that stuff. And so you want to take and buy all your 40K stuff online. If I'm hearing you correctly, well, yeah, because I can buy it cheaper. It's like I can get it more than what you're selling it for. All right. He goes, what's that there? He goes, I don't know. It's like, see that little thing right there? It's a little rectangular thing. It has a little push on it. And it says, behind that little sign, it says close. What's it say on the other side? It says open. Make sure that doesn't hit you in the ass on the way out.
Exactly.
And he says, you're not welcome in my store anymore. And that was one of the first times I ever was like, yeah, I can see this where an owner is, he's looking at where this could be the end of my business when he's seeing the writing on the wall.
Right.
And it wasn't till, well, the shop lasted until 2007 before he sold it and closed it down. But, he got basically put under by, the verge of the internet because he didn't sell comics or anything like that. He was a pure game shop.
Yeah. And
like our local game shop we have, it survives because of comic sales and magic card sales and stuff like that. Okay. Because if it wasn't for that, they wouldn't be able to keep the door open.
Right. Well, that's interesting. One of the big shops that I do go to locally for a while there did focus on the card games, and they actually sold off that part of their business. It was really successful, and they actually sold it off. Like literally somebody else bought that whole business from them. They carved it out. They do focus a lot on board games, and I do understand that as a big draw because a lot of people come in just to buy board games and of all varieties. I mean, aisles of board games, but it is primarily still a miniature game store. There is a section for books, but and then being the size of the store that it is, probably still the largest in Canada. Actually, it's 2 floors. It's just gigantic, and they have a lot of diversity. I mean, like in what they carry in miniature games. And so I still think that they're pretty successful on that front in combination with the board games for that. But the way I approach it is I buy everywhere. I buy from like manufacturers of miniatures that don't sell on like through online distributors or at local stores, but only through them, because that's the only way I can get it. I will buy from, in some cases, online distributors, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And then I'll also definitely buy from my local store, and I do use them and go there. Now at my local store, particularly things like X-Wing and Armada, they're extremely competitive with online retailers. And for whatever reason, they're able to do that. One of the online retailers I use is a brick and mortar store. It just so happens that they're a brick and mortar store out east in Canada that has just developed a very large online business as a component of their business. And there are times, something like X-Wing, I would take a loss, because literally, like, to do the shipping, like, my local store is very competitive, like, in pricing. And I buy brushes and paints at my local store. I buy like hobby materials at my local store mostly. I showed one time where I bought one brush here and I did an unboxing. It was only because they just had a very bad supply like that week at my local store. I couldn't get the brush that I wanted, so I put it in with an online order. But most of like my spur of the moment purchases, like I want to just add an X-Wing ship to my fleet, I will go down to my local store and I'll buy it. I'll usually pick up a couple of pots of paint, a brush, or something like that along with it. And so I'm constantly buying at my local store. But then occasionally, like Zombicide as an example, when I bought Zombicide, my local store was not charging $10 more, like Canadian, like they were charging like $40 to $60 more than what I could get online. And so there's a point where I understand the argument of spending a little more, because I definitely, on my incremental purchases, like for my paints, and like I'll pick up like let's say a box of something for $40K, like a model, and I know sometimes I'm spending a little bit more, for my local store, and I don't mind, because I go there and I just do that. But occasionally I'll run into a huge discrepancy, and it's like, I don't understand the logic. And it's in the store owner's hands, right? There is no one formula here. Like, each one of those businesses is their own business. They decide what the markups are, and it's in their hands as to whether, in some cases, whether an item is going to be like 25 to 30% more than like what you could get online, 50% more, 5% more. And so that's just pure economics, right? Like, there's going to be times when people are just not going to tolerate it if it goes too high, depending on what the circumstances are. And so I spread across everything. I like, my local store has a rewards program where you do get some, like a gift certificate and money back that you can, spend towards anything you want in the store. And so I do use that, and I'm part of that program. But then there are times when, and I didn't mention this, if a new game comes out and it's not on my store's distributor list and they have no idea when they're going to get it, like it's going to come in, but they have no idea, like Saga. I bought Saga directly from Gripping Beast because I wanted it as soon as it came out. And several local stores actually told my friends that, like, we can put it on order, but we have no idea when it's going to come in. And it's like, sometimes that's not good enough. It just depends on the situation. Like, if it's a core game of mine, and if I want it for the channel and to be able to feature it as well, if Musket Tomahawks 2 ever comes out, like, there's no way that I'll just be on an indefinite hold with somewhere to buy it. Like, I would only get it if they knew for sure at my local store that it would be coming in at a certain point.
Yeah. Like for me, you have to have better than 10% discount through like my local shop where I buy everything. I get 10% off because of military discount. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing they do for veterans and everything.
That's great.
And so you have to be, most stuff that you see online is only 10 to 15%. So 5% discount. And sometimes that's only like $1 or less. And I can just go to my local shop and just like, get my discount right there and then.
Yep.
And I have it in hand. Right. Everything that's I buy all my paints, all my supplies are local. Now, when it comes to like 40K stuff, back when I was buying 40K stuff, you just buy it local. Unfortunately, you see, I have a lot of Forge World stuff, and you only get it's kind of limited where you can buy most of that stuff.
Yeah, you have no choice.
Yeah, it's a very limited market, like one. Unless you pick it up. Sometimes I tool through like eBay, and every once in a while something will show up or somebody will just want to get rid of something. There's, like one of my knights I picked up, my Sarasis knights. I have the big ones from Forge World.
Yep.
I picked that one up for like $75 off of eBay.
Right.
And it's like yes. I didn't even think about it. It's like it was an instant or an instant purchase type thing.
Yeah.
And when you get something for more than half, 50% off, yeah, it's you just go that route. But you try to always support your local shop. But what you're saying is, and I wholeheartedly agree, is my shop either carries War Machine, 40K. They have some of the new stuff that's Shadespire, but maybe a box of stuff for here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some X-Wing stuff, but with my discount, it's not much different from paying the same price, at my shop or buying it online. It's not much of a big difference. And then they have a large selection of board games too.
Right.
And we actually in our shop have every Thursday night, like tonight, if I went there, would be it's board game night. And they fill up the place full of, you could have 50 people playing board games, different side.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, do everything you can. If you can buy your stuff local, it helps keep the lights on and gives you some place to meet people.
Yeah.
And like here in Iowa, it's I got one friend that lives 45 miles that direction. I got one friend that lives 30 miles that direction. And if we want to go to one person's place, just think of how far one person has to drive just to get to the central location, which is if we went to the game shop, it's an easier drive for everybody.
Well, just depending on where everybody lives.
Yeah.
But I think that's, to me, that's the assumption, is that like you always want to support the local game shop. And that is what's heralded in our hobby as the thing to do. Where I kind of started off and said, I think this is controversial, is I think there's a premium that's deserved by the local game shop to not only be able to sell that to you and have it in hand, like you said, to provide a place to play. There's, to be able to, keep the roof over your head and have the heat on and just do everything that's required to actually have a facility and space, which is not cheap. And so I do agree with that. Where I think the controversial piece comes in is that it's not black and white. It's not just support the local game shop and don't support the online. It's all business, right, at the end of the day. And it's like there's a premium that's deserved for that. But in my opinion, there's a price attached to that. You can actually go over that premium. And so like I've seen examples of both. Like, I've seen multiple examples where at times, it's just a little bit over, or it's just a certain amount over, and it's completely acceptable. And you, for sure, like appreciate and get a lot out of that gaming store, and it makes sense to buy it there. I've also seen where it's just ridiculous, like too, in certain places. And it's like, no, I just can't see doing this. Like, I just can't not buy it over here. And so that's where the controversial piece, I think, is for me, is that I do think that local gaming stores still have to be careful, and how much they do charge over, in that sense. Yeah. And then too, it's like we were talking about, it's maintaining that selection as well, because that's just kind of clear. Like if you can't find it there, or if they have no idea like when they'll be able to get it in, or if they'll be able to get it, then you'll clearly be buying it somewhere else then. Yeah,
there's also the thing about if your shop has it's like a small market, all right, the city of Des Moines, we have what 350, 400,000 people in the city of Des Moines, somewhere in there. And the metropolitan area is like 500,000. So but we have 2 game shops for that entire metropolitan area.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard for them to even keep a lot of the stuff stocked, and from the aspect of limited games. It's like if it isn't one of the big games, they don't stock it. And it was like one of the last stream podcasts we did. We were talking about they just got Saga, but it was the old Saga.
Yeah.
And they just, because I wonder if someone ordered it and then decided to realize that the new edition's coming out. So they're sitting on this stuff and they're like, well, we'll just put it on the shelf. Somebody's going to buy it.
And then some places were getting rid of their stuff at deep discount. Like some of Gripping Beats and stuff were selling at discounts, like the older stuff too, right?
Yeah.
And I understand too, like you can't have inventory is really expensive, and you can't have stuff just sitting on the shelf if it's never going to sell. Like you don't have the money in small businesses at times to do that. And so I understand that as well. I don't know what the answer is to that. I don't know whether it's just store owners just have to be really keen on what is going on with new stuff coming in and what people want to see in your local area. And, to not order a lot of things that are just going to sit on the shelf, but then also perhaps, and this isn't me as somebody with experience in owning a game store, so I don't know this for sure, but I'm just guessing that it's a matter of having distributor relationships where that you're connected such that you can get the stuff you need when you want it. You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
like just ensuring that you have good channels that you can meet that need when it does come up. It's a lot has come out over the last few years, right? I mean, it's getting to the point where there's just so much out there that I would imagine even as a store owner at times it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, I've talked with back when Dystopian Wars was kind of popular in the area, and just like he put a little bit of stuff on the shelf just to test it. That's kind of like what they do here is they put a small amount on it, and if it sells, right, okay, that sold pretty quickly. Let's try putting a little more out there. Well, that sold quickly. Maybe there's a growing movement.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Dystopian Wars started, he put a little bit of area. It's like, a shelving area, maybe 2 feet by 4 feet type of, all the blister packs, a little smattering of everything. And we're like, oh, cool. We were playing Uncharted Seas and that came out. It was like, so our group started buying everything. And then it's like, next thing you know, the wall started getting bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like the flavor of the day, unless other people start. We were basically a small group of us, like 8 of us were the customer base.
Yeah.
That was buying everything. And what happens when your customer base is saturated then?
Yeah.
It just sits on the shelf. And then it's like I got the fleets and armies that I wanted. I don't need any more stuff. So suddenly it's just sitting there. And it's like, well, then one year it just sat there and it's collecting dust. And eventually it's all right, we're just putting it for 75% off just to get it off the shelf because it's just.
Yeah.
And I went in and bought practically everything they have. I got bags and bags behind me underneath my cabinet here.
I could smell the brimstone through the microphone. Like the other thing too is Facebook and being able to connect into local groups and understanding what the demand is in your area. And lately I've noticed a couple of the stores that are a little bit smaller than the one I just mentioned, really active on Facebook and seeing like what people are doing in their area. And then you can be like, if they see the demand and, they understand, listening to the conversations and joining in the conversations that people are having on these game groups, then they can actually say, hey, I've just brought it in, and you can do that. And then I guess it's also that creating demand too, because some games, like when I was looking into the Marvel game, Batman miniatures, there was a time in my city where or not even just my city, but just people were talking, particularly in the US, about just not being able to get it. Like they'd love to have this, they just don't know where to get it. They prefer to buy local. And so that was like an opportunity, for some certain store owners to be able to bring stuff in that there was just demand for that was just not met. So that happens too, I think.
Yeah, it's keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going on is if you're a store owner, you're basically the let's just put it in terms of you're the drug dealer. You're the local drug dealer. And you're putting out plastic crack. You're putting
plastic crack. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, plastic crack.
That's right. Nobody says metal crack. I like the metal crack.
That's heavy metal.
That's right. I like the heavy metal.
A little cardboard crack tonight.
That's right.
That's back when I used to play Magic. We always called it cardboard crack too. But you're the local dealer, and you're the one that's facilitating the movement of people's money to you by making excitement.
Yeah,
you're selling excitement, and some of it I think is something that they started recently in the last I guess it's 6 to 8 months maybe now. They started doing a games once a month. They have like a demo games day on a Saturday where people will come in and demo games. So people can say, oh, I've never seen that before. I will just see what that's all about. And that is something they've been doing, is get people exposure to all these micro games that they may not even heard of. These little niche games like Muskets and Tomahawks per se.
Right? What? It's a niche. What do you mean? I'm just kidding.
Yes. Very small. You're a very small game in a big sea of fish.
No, it's huge. No. Well, we have handily handled that hour.
Yeah, I guess it is. We burned through an hour really quick, didn't it?
Very quick, yep.
When we start waxing lyrical on thoughts and everything that goes on in the world.
That's right. That's right.
Quickly.
Okay.
All right. Anything else to throw out there before we sign off?
No, but has anybody joined in with the comments, do you know?
Oh, I forgot all about that. I got to look. Let's see. Oh, we got comments. All right. We got Striker 11B200. He said, finally got a live show. All right.
Awesome.
All right. Let's see. Distributors for B&M cut into the profits as there were online stores or company, brick and mortar. Okay, cut into where the online companies can actually cut the middleman. Therefore, the online discounts are better. Okay.
Makes a lot of sense.
Dan Bunman.
Yep. Dan Bunman. Yep.
He said, evening, gents. Started watching.
Hello, Dan.
Okay, and howdy. We need to start an hour later so I can watch live. Oh, we could always go an hour longer.
There we go. We've proven that, obviously.
Yeah, we can burn through an hour real quick without even thinking. So I guess nobody had any real questions or anything.
Yeah,
that's where
some good comments there, though.
Yeah, we had some good comments, and that's where, like you see, there's some of those brick and mortar stores are doing their online sales too at the same time. That's what something I've been seeing that we didn't even talk about it too much, but eBay is, you're getting a lot of brick and mortar stores are actually having eBay presence now.
Mm-hmm.
And they have you can get them through their, either through eBay or you can get them directly through them. And I got a feeling that some of these brick and mortar stores, it's either price is the same, either online or through their shop.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I've noticed that too with a couple of stores that I deal with, that they have brick and mortar and eBay. Yeah, for sure.
And just to talk about eBay a little bit, I think this might be a good topic. Is
I was going to say that sounds like a whole nother topic.
Yeah, I think it might be for our next show is the topic of eBay and how maybe you can use eBay as a tool to buy used stuff and create an army really quick.
Yeah, that sounds like a good topic.
That Absolutely. Might be a good topic.
For sure. All right.
All right. This is the Musty Wargamers, and we're going to be signing off here. If you got anything, post them down below when the video goes up on the YouTubers. And if you got any questions or anything that you want to put down there. And another good thing that might be good is if you've lasted this long, is if you have a question for the next show that maybe towards the end, we can live some time where we can just randomly talk about questions, put it in there, and maybe we can talk about it the next time. What do you think of that?
That sounds good.
Yeah. Maybe that's one way we can get, if you can't watch live, put it in the questions there, and then we can get to them later.
Absolutely. All righty.
All right, well, guys. We'll talk to you later. Signing off.
Talk to you later, everybody.